Hey everyone, so today's practice is going to be a yin style practice, and the only props we're going to need are 2 blocks. If you happen to have a bolster or a blanket, those are always nice things to have, especially in a yin practice, but you don't need them for today's practice. And for today, the intention of today's class is really to kind of open up the ribs and allow for more space for the lungs to draw in more air, and really just for us to be able to breathe a little bit more effortlessly. So with that, let's go ahead and lie down onto our backs. And you can start with any comfortable position here. So if it feels comfortable for you to start with a bend in your knees, go ahead and do that. You might just check in and just notice what it feels like here. Maybe bring the arms alongside you and close the eyes. Let's start by simply observing the breath and noticing the pace. Noticing whether it feels quick or slow. And seeing if you can draw your attention to the lungs. And maybe just imagining that we're drawing in a third of the air that we're capable of taking in. And then on your next breath in, see if you can fill the lungs up completely from bottom to top, feeling the ribs expand all the way around. And just continuing to notice the breath there. With our yin practice, we want our breath to be somewhat effortless, so not trying too hard, just allowing for that natural ebb and flow of our breathing. If you're lying in Shavasana with the legs stretched out, go ahead and place a bend in the knees now. And we'll bring our knees into our chest. And maybe just rock side to side a little bit, noticing how the low back and the middle back, maybe even how the upper back is feeling. Bringing our arms out to a T, let's drop our knees to the right as we gaze to the left. So this will be our first pose in today's practice, and for today's practice, each pose will last no longer than 20 breaths, so about 10 to 20 breaths per pose here. So just close the eyes and see if you can begin to relax into this one. Again, drawing your attention to the ribs as they expand all the way around with each breath. Maybe relaxing your left shoulder down just a little bit more. And seeing if you can soften your right hip. Slowly turning your head back up. And let's bring the knees back through center. And then really softly taking the knees to the left and taking your gaze to the right. And just settling in there, noticing if one side feels differently than the other. Maybe you have the space to melt your right shoulder down a little bit more. Turn your head to the right just a little bit more. Seeing if we can relax our left hip. And just noticing that breath again. And slowly turn your head back up through center. Let's bring those knees back up through center, wrapping the arms around the knees. And you might just rock forward and backward here. If you're able to come all the way up to seated, just rocking, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, roll to one side and then come on up. And then we're going to grab hold of our yoga block. We're going to set it at the second tallest level here, and we're going to lie our bodies down over it. So lie onto your right hip and place the block kind of right in the center of the armpit there, so that one edge of the block is on your upper arm and the other edge is on your upper ribs. We want a little bit more of the block behind us than in front of us. And then just rest your head here in your hand. And I know that this one can be kind of uncomfortable or a lot uncomfortable at first, but see if you can sit with it. So what we're starting to do here is kind of blending a little myofascial release with the block into our yin practice. So depending on how heavy your block is, some blocks are a little bit softer and squishier. It's going to feel a little bit different. Mine is a pretty sturdy block here, so I'm feeling this a lot. But it is starting to taper off a little bit, just starting to relax a little bit more here. And see if you can let the weight of the head be really heavy in the hand. We're just about halfway through here before we do a little bit more with this one. And letting the weight of the ribs press into the block. Continuously reminding yourself not to hold your head up with the muscles of your neck, just to let it rest right there in your hand without any effort. And then from here, we're just going to start to lean back a little bit. So just lean back until you feel sensation someplace else. So for me, it's going to be more towards the back of my shoulder blade. You don't have to go very far usually to feel this. We're just going to hang out in this new spot for a few breaths. We're slowly going to come forward and we're going to roll more towards the pecs here. So you want to make sure that the block is above the breast tissue, but on the pec muscles there. And then rest your head on your hands if you can. And again, this one might be pretty tough. There's a lot of pressure there. There's a lot of us who are really tight in this part of the body, so this might be pretty intense. So see if you can just try to soften into it. And come back to noticing the breath. Let's hang out just a few more breaths here. And slowly press the hands into the mat. Stretch your left leg out. We're going to press our way up to seated. And just bring your right foot against your inner left thigh. Then we'll take our left hand to our right knee and take our right arm all the way over our right ear. So we're just reinforcing some of the side body opening that we just did. So really leaning over, maybe gazing underneath your right arm. Just a few breaths in this one, maybe leaning just a little bit more. And then slowly come on up, cross your left leg in front of your right, place your hands on your knees, and just close the eyes and notice any change from side to side. Notice if that right side feels just more relaxed and looser, maybe longer, softer. Blink open the eyes, and we'll do that same thing on the other side now. So placing the block on its second tallest level. And again, we're just going to lie down on our hip and place the block halfway between the ribs and the arm. So right in the armpit, rest the head in the hands, the left hand. Anything that you want to do with that right hand is fine, so you can keep it here to support you, especially if it's feeling a little intense here at first. You could certainly wrap it behind your back if that felt good. You could even take it and drape it over your head if you wanted to. Just let the weight of the body be heavy. And let the weight of the head be heavy. And just notice the breath. See if you can let gravity take over for you here. Just getting a little heavier. And just a few more breaths before we do those other additions to this one. And just notice how it's feeling just a little bit easier now. It's not quite as intense anymore. The tissues have started to relax just a little bit. Slightly lean back a little bit. You don't have to go very far. Just Leaning back and noticing this new spot of tenderness. Slowly start to roll forward, and the edge of that block is going to go roll right over the pecs here. Place the hands down on the mat if you can, and just kind of drape yourself over that block, maybe ending with the edge of the block hanging out right there, and some pretty tender pec muscles. So for those of us, probably most of us, who work on a computer or hold a phone in our hands or sit at a desk and drive a car all day, these muscles tend to be short and weak and tight. And see if you can relax a little bit more into this one, getting just a little bit heavier, melting just a little bit more. And slowly now pushing the hands into the mat, stretching your right leg out as you rise up to seated, bringing that left foot against the inner right thigh. And we'll take our right hand to our left knee and float your left arm all the way up and over. Maybe gaze underneath that left arm. And just getting that nice reinforcement, that nice side body stretch here. And then slowly come on up, cross the right leg in front of the left. Let the hands rest on the knees, close the eyes. And maybe now noticing just a little bit more symmetry between the sides. And then blink open your eyes, and we're gonna lie on our bellies now. So all the way down onto your stomachs. And for this one, you don't need a prop, but sometimes it's nice to have a block nearby for this one. So if you want a block under your head, just have it nearby. I'll show you what you could do with it in just a minute. But we're just gonna lie down right now onto our right cheek. So right down onto your mat here to begin with. And take your left arm out straight to the, your right arm out to the right straight. And just notice how that right shoulder's feeling here. Good. And then bring your left fingertips under your left shoulder, and we're gonna roll onto our right side, but hug our knees up towards our chest as we do that. A little bit softer version of the shoulder opener. And if you wanted to use a block here, you could take a block and place it under your head if you can't quite get your head to the floor. And then if you wanted a little bit more, keep the bottom knee bent and maybe step that left foot back behind you. And again, you can do anything at all with that upper hand, maybe wrap it behind the back if that feels good. And just close the eyes and just settle in here. Noticing the breath again. Noticing that natural ebb and flow. And just checking in with the sensation in the right arm, so we don't want to be forcing our way into the deepest possible stretch we can. We're just kind of slowly finding space and slowly moving into it. And see if you can relax maybe the jaw or the space between the eyebrows. Just take 5 more breaths here. Really slowly, we're going to come out of this, roll forward right back onto your bellies, and turn onto your left cheek. Stretch your left arm out to the side, and before we do anything else, just noticing here how it feels from side to side. And sliding your right fingertips under your right shoulder. Let's roll over to our left side, and again, hug the knees in towards you as you roll there, so it's a little bit softer. Feel free to use that block underneath your head if you want to. Maybe step your right foot back behind you, but leave that bottom knee bent. And then again, if it feels okay, you could wrap your right arm behind your back. You can leave it out in front of you. So just start to settle in and notice again how everything's feeling. Maybe coming back to feeling the ribs expanding all the way around. Make sure the breath is feeling effortless. You can always back away from it. If it becomes a little bit too intense, of course, you can back away from it if the breath is becoming inhibited. And let's take just about 5 more breaths here. carefully and really slowly come back to laying on your belly. And turn onto your right cheek this time. And let the arms just be out at the sides, and just again notice how it feels. Sliding the hands in. Let's come to a Sphinx pose now, and we're gonna incorporate just a little bit of acupressure on our forehead here. So from just a little technique from traditional Chinese medicine, kind of blending it with yoga, using the yoga block here. So we're going to target this spot right here, right between the medial borders of the eyebrows. And this is called Yin Tang. So coming into a comfortable Sphinx pose, see if you can find that spot right at the edge of your block there, and make sure you're comfortable. So finding a comfortable Sphinx pose and letting the weight of the head rest on the block right in that spot between the eyebrows, and close the eyes. And see if you can relax the shoulders down and away from the ears. Notice the belly breathing on the ground. So acupuncture or acupressure on this spot is supposed to help with stress and anxiety and insomnia. I know we can all use a few tricks up our sleeve to help us de-stress. Even just starting to notice here, maybe an energy shift. Notice a sensation of calm just washing over you. Noticing the ribs as they expand all the way around, just moving into some of the space we've created so far. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Slowly lifting up the head, sliding the hands underneath the shoulders, and just pressing on up towards table pose. And we're going to come to a seat. Grab both of your yoga blocks now, and if you happen to not have had yoga blocks, you could always use some blankets or pillows. But we're going to take the blocks now and place them. The first block here is going to go just about the lower portion of the middle back. So right at about the bottom ribs, maybe just above the bottom ribs. That's where the first block will go. And the second block is just going to be to catch your head. So for most of us, it's not going to feel good to drop the head all the way back, or maybe not back far at all. So I usually take the block to this tallest height here. And we just want to feel comfortable, so feel free to adjust. Let the arms relax alongside you, and then whatever you'd like to do with the knees. So maybe you join the soles of the feet together and let the knees fall out wide if that feels good. I'm going to place mine in constructive rest, so taking my feet out wide and letting my knees knock in. And then just close the eyes here and just feel this opening in the heart. Feel the support beneath the back and the head. Again, just noticing the breath. With each inhale here, see if you can press the block away from you as you breathe in and feel those lungs expand as the ribs expand. And with every exhale, see if you can relax and melt just a little bit more. Shoulders descend. Make sure you're not holding the head up, that the head's completely relaxed here as well. Softening the muscles of the eyes. Noticing how it's starting to just feel a little bit more natural to be here. This is by far one of my favorites, and we could stay here all day long, and that would be fine with me. But for the purposes of our class, let's take 5 or 6 more breaths here, and that's it. Blinking open the eyes, seeing if you can come up onto the forearms as you lift your head and carefully release the block from underneath your low back or your mid back. And then we're just going to lie down and take the block that was behind the head now, and we're just going to do one final little yoga acupressure fusion here. So we're going to take the block and just press it into the top of the head lightly. So this is GV40 or governing vessel for GV20 or governing vessel 20. We're just applying light pressure for just a few breaths. Also reinforcing that sense of grounding, helping with stress and anxiety. Just leave the block there, maybe lightly touching the head as you rest the arms alongside you now. Close the eyes. Feeling the space that we've created in the lungs and the ribs, feeling that spaciousness as we breathe in. Just relaxing as we breathe out. Staying here for as long as you like. If you're ready to come up, bringing the knees into the chest. And just rocking your way on up to seated. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Namaste.